The extraordinary session planned for the first quarter of 2018, at which a decision is to be communicated in this regard, has not yet taken place, but Morocco's proposed membership has already generated much interest across the sub-region. Morocco would be obliged to respect the free movement of persons and goods within the region, adopt the ECOWAS passport and join the common external tariff if accession is finalized.
So that's an interesting report that has been assembled by Nabil Ahmed Rufai regarding the accession of Morocco to the ECOWAS sub-region. But in studio, I will try to get some details from some representatives from the Moroccan government beyond the report you have seen. We also have over the phones Dr. Jessica Anku, who's an international relations expert, who will help us understand the dynamics around this particular decision that Morocco has decided to take. But in studio, I have in here Mr. Laghidi Amine, who is part of the delegation that came from Morocco. And Lamin, first of all, I should welcome you to Ghana.
Thank you very much.
Beautiful country. How are you enjoying it so far?
I love Ghana, as you know, dear Patrick. First of all, thank you actually for this warm welcome into your studio. Thanks actually for your TV station for the...
Fantastic. Now I'm going to get into the details. Morocco, you are in North Africa. What is your interest? What's your business in West Africa? Why are you interested in ECOWAS?
It's a very interesting question. Actually, first of all, we are here as civil society, but also as private sector, you know.
Right.
Thanks His Majesty King Mohammed VI visits last February, things actually have enhanced and the relations have accelerated between two countries. Let me remind the people that that's forgot and the people maybe that doesn't know also that our relations are secular.
Right.
And our two actually forefathers, President Nakwame Nkrumah, may God actually bless his soul, and His Majesty Mohammed V also, Allah yarhamu, may God actually bless his soul, were actually among the forefathers of the African Union as such. So we have actually real close relations and close history, and today we are only actually claiming back the development of these relations together.
Right, so it is more business for you, it is more finding how you can leverage the sort of historical antecedents that we have as a country with Morocco. But what has been the development with other, if you like, you know, partners of Ghana within the sub-region? What has the experience for Morocco been in terms of trade engagements?
Okay, I will be answering actually directly in pragmatic way. As you know, I'm a very pragmatic person actually into the approach. I will go straight to the point. The political relations are getting closer and closer, and we are all brothers. And Morocco's actually vision, thanks actually to the King's leadership, it's about not taking the leadership of Africa, let's be very clear on that. It's about giving the leadership for Africa, helping our African brother nations to develop their own economies. And that's the spirit that we are bringing over here. We are not here to tell. We are here, most importantly, actually to share. This being said, and with this very modest approach, let me address some of the issues and some of the things that we can build on together. And
before you do that, and I'm going to make you do that, I have over the phones Dr. Jessica Anku, who's an international relations expert. Dr. Jessica Anku, good evening and thank you for joining us.
Good evening. Great pleasure to be with you.
So my very first question to you, I'm sure you have been monitoring this decision that Morocco has decided to take in terms of joining ECOWAS as a union. There's a bit of a political history with Morocco. As an international relations expert, do you read the decisions of Morocco as something that is good for ECOWAS and indeed for Africa as a whole?
Well, I think that the conversation cuts both ways. We just have to be very, very analytical in the way we look at this. First of all, what are the pros? Okay, so if you do a pro-con analysis, of course, the pro advantages are that, hey, in the first place, Morocco is an African nation. We remember, what the efforts were towards the formation of the AU when we had the Casablanca group, you know, and the linkages with our former president, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, and all of that. So, first of all, the argument is that Morocco is a member of the AU, and so by extension, the idea is that African countries must begin to cooperate with each other. You know, one of the ringing themes that came out of the conference today was that Africa must trust Africa. And we do know that the level of intra-African trade, okay, or relationships has not been at the best in terms of percentages, okay, right? So I think that is where people take it from, that within that spirit, why would we be here and be trading with, let's say, China, you know, when Morocco is right here in Africa? So I think that is the spirit or the fundamental understanding around that. Now, there are other people who also say that, well, hey, Morocco has decided to opt out of the AU before. Of course, they have their regions, which is the Western Sahara and all of that. They did try to get into the EU, if I'm right, some time ago. Remember that Charm offensive? You see, so there are trust issues, and then there are people who are suspicious of that. You know, so I think that a lot more work needs to be done. There needs to be a bigger communication or media strategy around all this. And the questions that are being asked by some people who are kind of suspicious of all of this, it's probably legitimate. But of course, you can understand why people would also try to maybe accommodate some of these, because if you look at exports, there are things that Ghana could export. That's what the argument has been on the other side, the pro-analysis. You know, there are exports we can do in terms of energy, in terms of some of the raw materials that we produce, and then there are some that markets that Morocco could find around here. And so the argument has always been that, you know, if we need to do more of this within Africa. You know, so
Dr. Sikanku, from the way you read it, beyond the sort of political history that people are always going to go to, there's something positive out of this, politically and economically.
Yes, yeah, definitely. And you know, politically, the point is that, hey, Morocco has a history, so you take it from the historical part, and also the fact that we need to have more bilateral relationships with countries here in Africa. There are also issues of migration. We know, I mean, the position that Morocco has in terms of people trying to migrate. You know, I mean, all that. Those crises that we have, a lot of young men traveling outside the country to get to Europe and all of that. So, I mean, these are conversations that we need to be having with our partners. And moreover, Morocco is a country that we've had some kind of history with. So that bilateral relationship needs to be deepened. We need to increase inter-African trade. Remember that the AU has just signed a continental free trade agreement. I mean, what is the basis around that? There's a common flight zone so that you don't have to go to Spain or Europe before you come back to Morocco. The trade barriers and all of that. I mean, that is the fundamental spirit governing relationships between African nations. We cannot ignore that. And so that translates to get the politics right. You know, Kwame Nkrumah said, he will stick, I mean, the political kingdom, if you get that right, all other things, I mean, you get the economics right as well. So the politics and the optics of it is definitely important. And then, I mean, at the end of everything, they said, well, it's the economy stupid. So the economy definitely rules. I mean, all of this is crucial because fundamentally, we want to create jobs for our people. Moroccans want to create jobs for their people. We want to open the market. We want to have better avenues for people to be able to export their commodities.
Dr. Sikanku,
and so at the end of the day, that is also very, very, very crucial. You know,
Dr. Sikanku, if you can just hold on for me, there's some bit of information I want to share with my viewers. I'll come back to you. Then I'll come back in studio to Mr. Amine here, who will now tell us exactly what the interest is in a country, Ghana, because he's already started on some economic engagements that the Moroccan government looks to be interested in cooperating and helping Ghana build, and even helping the sub-region build going forward. And so that information is coming up pretty shortly. Now, Morocco's accession to ECOWAS. ECOWAS revised this treaty in 1993 to promote cooperation and integration, leading to the establishment of the Economic Union of the people of West Africa in order to raise living standards. And these are some of the issues that Dr. Sikanku, you have been referring to. Now, the membership of ECOWAS is restricted to states within the West African sub-region, and this is in regard to the revised treaty which has defined the region. Now, according to Article 2.2 of the ECOWAS revised treaty, members of the community here referred to as member states are the states that have ratified, if you like, the treaty. And I think Sikanku again has highlighted some of these issues. Now, it follows that many West African states may apply to become a member of the community, which requires that the applicant must be a state within West Africa whose territory is located at least in part of the geographical space of West Africa. As far as the community law is concerned, well, Morocco is not qualified to be a member as far as this particular context of the law is concerned. But beyond the law, there are certain objectives that states must ascribe to, and I'm sure those are some of the things that you, Dr. Sikanku, have been making reference to in terms of the spirit for integration, in terms of how we want to support ourselves as Africans to build trade. And Off the back of that, I'm going to come to you, Amine Laghidi, in studio here. There is business that Morocco wants to do not only with ECOWAS, but with Ghana, for example. What sectors are we looking at?
Good. When you invited me, Patrick, we agreed actually to be talking, with my hat as international expert and mostly actually as the private sector. But since it was addressed the political issues, let me address that into 30 seconds, even though the subject might take some time. Then we focus on the economic side. I invite actually, I'm talking as a Moroccan citizen. I'm not wearing any official hat. I'm not the government.
Of course, you're an individual.
As a Moroccan citizen, I invite actually all my brothers, my sisters actually from Ghana and other actually African countries to please honor us by coming to Morocco.
Right.
Okay. All the dignitaries, all the ministers, all the private delegations that came, that visited our southern Moroccan provinces, have changed their minds with no exception. They saw how actually the investments that were made by Morocco, all of Morocco, into the two provinces of the south. Okay,
right.
In terms of infrastructures, in terms of urbanization, in terms actually of electricity and water. There is no shortage of water, no shortage of electricity in any of those. There is actually cheap also housing and urbanization, all those places. There is investment into people and creation of employment. So that's what we are trying to build over here in Morocco. We are trying to build something all together. And if you come, even without actually organizing anything for you, you will go, you'll talk to our brothers, our Moroccan brothers actually in the southern provinces, in our Moroccan Sahara.
Right.
They will tell you that they are unionists, loyal actually to their king and to their country. Now, let's get back to our subject of discussion.
Of course,
because this is closed issue right now.
Absolutely.
It's a real actually closed issue, and especially with the Moroccan actually project of advanced regionalization. Now, let's get back actually to our discussion. If we want actually, my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, there is actually some priorities within the current government, in terms of economy. First being the industrialization as such.
Absolutely.
Second, we are talking about energy. We are talking about water. Third, we can be talking about infrastructures, and four, about agriculture. And those four elements should be studied in two ways. First of all, we all know actually about the population growth that is happening in Africa. But this population growth is happening in the same time as fast urbanization process. What does it mean? In the same time, we have actually a huge need actually for food that is increasing every day, increasing every year, and the people that were working actually in the field are deserting the field to come and live actually in the cities. What does it mean? We need actually a new, different approach toward agriculture,
right.
And that's something that we can build on together. And Ghana has big actually potential, as many actually other countries in the region, and we need to create common synergies. Let me throw some ideas over here, that we can actually work on in the future. Because
right.
The idea is about continuing. This is not the end. This is just the start. The
right.
start comes, the main catalyst was the King Mohammed VI's visit over here to Ghana. Now actually we are here to reconfort this with clear actually will to listen and to work together. Agriculture. First thing about agriculture, the biggest actually problem right now, it's about fertilizers. It's about uses, of improving the productivity of the land.
Yes,
and as
we have quite a challenge with
absolutely, and we can work together on that because the OCP, the Moroccan company that is actually one of the flagships of Morocco, have developed a beautiful actually expertise into soil, adding value to the soil, into understanding the soil actually composition, helping the farmers with better crops and with better actually fertilizer. And that's something that we can develop together, not just as exports to Ghana. And that's where the Moroccan way of doing business comes. We come with humbleness, but with common value creation, as I said before. It's about creation also of local factories. It's about creation of local blenders that are close to local needs, but also
hold your thoughts for me.
Go ahead.
Hold your thoughts for me, because I do not want to do advocacy for my government, but it looks like some of the things you have spoken about are things that are right at the heart of this government's agenda for fixing agriculture. And I'll urge you, beyond the conference, you'll probably reach out to the Ministry of Food and Agriculture and the government to see how that goes on. But we'll continue the conversation. Let me go for the phones and speak to Dr. Eche Sikanku. So, Dr. Eche Sikanku, my final question to you before you take leave of us in studio. It is possible to look beyond the politics, isn't it?
Yes, if I got you right, you said it's possible to go beyond the politics.
Yes, is it possible to look beyond the politics?
Yes, absolutely. It should be. See, at the end of the day, we live in a globalized economy. Let's not forget the context. We live in a world which is getting more and more interconnected. But then at the same time, we live in a world where people are increasingly concerned about the bread and butter issues on the table. We've seen that across the world. That is what has given rise or inspired a lot of the populist movements, both in Europe and in America. And so people want jobs. People want to be able to get better, value for their products. People want better wages. People want the prosperity to get to them. And we live in a very technological age as well. You see, so these are, very, very important elemental characteristics of the modern economy. And that modern economy does not, encourage some kind of individualization or seclusion. We have to deal with the international system. I think that for a lot of young people, the concern has been that how can we be part of all of this? For a lot of people on the ground, the grassroots, how can we benefit from this so that the conversation is not taking place only at the supra level, but also at the bottom level?
The message is well taken. Dr. Jeskanku, thank you very much for these submissions. I'm running out of time, but I'm sure as and when this particular issue evolves, we'll be coming back to you for subsequent inputs. I'm going to come back to you in studio, Amine. So you've talked a bit about agriculture. I know Morocco is big on banking. We have some issues here as well. Morocco is again big on telecoms. Are there plans to look at all of these other industries?
Beautiful. Let me give bullet points, and then actually if we can actually develop the things. In agriculture, there is another element that is
very snappy, in like 30 seconds,
it's
because I need to go to other items on the
Many actually of our crop is got lost because it's perishables. We need to develop actually together infrastructures that will get actually these crops to the right warehouses, allow us actually to avoid actually export stress and local transformation. Today, the aim is about transforming actually the local agriculture. You know, you have a beautiful production that is well known of cocoa over here. It's time today to transform this cocoa into chocolates, and that's something that we can work on together with decoupling points with production zones over here together, and with both capitalists from the two countries, but also with creation of wealth locally. You talked about the banks. That's a very important issue, and very important also area of opportunity. Let me address it in two ways. Moroccan banks, Tijari Wafa Bank, BMC, Bank of Africa, Bank Popular, and others are actually have beautiful African knowledge, and they are among actually the fastest developing in the region. Now, one issue that we can tackle together, if you allow me, Patrick, and that is really dear to my heart, it's the funding of our SMEs, the funding of our startups, and the funding also of our big projects. We cannot develop our local economies unless we develop actually the right expertise that in order actually to be funding the SMEs that are closest to the people and the highest level also of creation of employment. Moroccan banks have a good actually expertise in that.
Morocco has the wherewithal to help us do this and get there, not only as a country but as a sub-region.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much for sharing these insights with us.
There was other things that we could have talked about: infrastructures, maritime connections, urbanization.
But I'm sorry, I have run out of time. We're going to find time and probably have a conversation, if not with yourself, probably the embassy, and continue the conversation to see what we can do. But we have been asking you questions at home regarding this particular development. Now, ECOWAS is considering Morocco's application to join the regional bloc. Should the application be granted by ECOWAS? Well, 68% of you believe that yes, it should be granted. 20% say no, and 12% believe it's an EU ploy. Well, overwhelmingly, people believe that ECOWAS should grant Morocco the decision, it should give them the opportunity to join the West African Union, ECOWAS. And that brings us to the end of Inside.